welcome to Escaping Kasterborous, the podcast where we rewatch, reminisce, and review everything Doctor Who from 2005 to present. My name is Rich, and I'm joined by my fiancée,
Hey!
Amy. Because
Sorry, that was really loud.
a lot has happened in the time between our last podcast. Yeah, we got engaged.
Yeah, we did.
I'm not gonna lie, I've been thinking about introducing you as my fiancée for a while now. Like, the fact that I get to introduce you as my fiancée.
Or as we say, my
this
financy.
My financey, because we were stupid texting and I sent the word finance with an acute E on the end, and now she's like, I'm your financey. I'm like, I hate that I made this a thing. But anyway, welcome, Amy. Or, I mean, if I had to give you a normal introduction, I'd say the person who would most like to suck off David Tennant with a straw.
Yeah.
Because I will make a joke about that
You wouldn't be
later on. I mean, it's true. the Tennant simping has begun, and we're probably like a minute in. But welcome to Escaping Kasterborous. Welcome back.
I'm excited for all the comments that are going to be like, I didn't realise you were an actual couple.
Really?
I don't know, I just feel like maybe there's some people out there that didn't quite realise.
I mean, at the time of now, I've done my first review on my personal YouTube channel. I'm back, by the way, doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Not on Who Culture. If you've been listening to the podcast, you know this already. But I did that, and a lot of people were like, oh my god, you're doing stuff, that's awesome. And then I put episode 0, our previously on Escaping Kasterborous, onto YouTube, because I'm like, right, got to make some content. Got the weekly reviews for Doctor Who Flux, which aired for the first episode aired on Sunday, just gone.
Yeah.
Just give you some context as to when we're recording this podcast.
I was going to say, that timestamps this, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. Immediately dates it. And so I decided, you know what, I wasn't going to put the Escaping Kasterborous onto YouTube for the sake of putting it onto YouTube, but now that I've, like, I know that we're tangenting off already from Series 3, but there's a few things we need to talk about first, I think.
Yeah.
The reaction and the response I've had on YouTube for doing this review has been absolutely flipping crazy.
Yes, it
like
literally rocketed.
Holy balls, you guys. So many people found my video in their recommended when they were searching for Who Culture's ups and downs.
Hey.
Which is quite funny and also kind of great for me, but also kind of great for you, because I'm surprised how many people were like, I want to see what Rich thinks about this.
Yeah.
And therefore went onto Who Culture in hopes I was still there, because, you know, some people don't know that I've left. Like, loads of people have been tweeting me or putting in the comments of the video like, wait, you left?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that was February.
Yeah, a while. It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been nearly a year, honestly.
That's crazy.
But the response has been amazing. Like, the comments are all really civil. A lot of people have been very appreciative of this new direction that the reviews have gone in. Because if you are listening to this and not realised I reviewed Chapter 1 of Flux, it's on my YouTube channel. And they're like, oh, so, you know, I go on about this all in the beginning, and I say, you know, the binary of up and down, just it's a nice, consumable, easily digestible format.
Yeah.
But it doesn't lead to great reviewing because everything has to be binary.
I
could maybe get away with one thing per review to be in a grey area and say, you know, what do you guys think about this? Because then it, you know, triggers a YouTube comments question, and the comments come in, and, you know, more comments, more traction, more views potentially. So yeah, that's that was how that worked, and sometimes it made me sound a lot arsier than I wanted to, because something that was like just mildly not great was a down, and therefore it was like 100% bad, or there was something that was 100% good. So it meant that it sounded like I didn't give Chris a chance, and honestly, it really, like, I didn't lean into it too much for the review because I didn't want to go off topic, unlike right now where we're very much off topic. But I will admit, doing that stuff and the reaction I got from people wasn't great. And it was more after I left Who Culture, after I left the company. It was only about a month or two after I left, and all of a sudden, like, Doctor Who Twitter suddenly kicked off about Who Culture.
Oh, really?
And I was like, oh, goody, yeah.
I don't know if I ever knew that.
I don't think I told you about it, honestly.
No,
I think I saw it. It all sort of happened, and there's a lot of people slacking it off and stuff, X, Y, and Z, and, you know, obviously being the face of it for the first, you know, nearly a year of its life.
Yeah.
It was like, it doesn't feel great to know, but yeah. So I really wanted to make sure that doing this myself, I sort of I don't want to say fixed my image, but I definitely wanted to be a bit more like, yeah, I can see why people perceived me that way before, but I don't want to come across that way. It's not that the opinions I had were false. They were very much exaggerated in certain instances.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, the response and more importantly, the statistics of this video going live have been crazy. It's been, what is it, Wednesday today? So it's been like 3 full days of it being out.
Yeah.
It's at, I think is it like 20,000 views?
It was the last time I checked.
It's, 21,000 views. And I've gained...
That's impressive.
And I've gained 3,000 subscribers with one video.
Damn.
And that is flipping mad.
If that ain't progression.
If you're listening to this and you've watched that video and just watched it anyway, just thank you in the first place. But if you've managed to re-find me, because obviously a lot of people didn't go over to Traction because it's not for everyone. It's
Doctor Who is very
racing video games. Yeah, it's a whole different kettle of fish. So it not everyone's gonna go there and know that I'm doing that. So people refinding me and being like, "Oh, you're doing this again. This is great," and I'm like, "Thank you so much," because honestly, the motivation it has given me to do YouTube myself for a bit.
Yeah.
I say for a bit, but you're doing YouTube myself. And I say for a bit, I mean like because I can't stick to it super hardcore because I'm still working a full-time job. It's crazy, and I never thought I would ever be in that position again to want to try YouTube properly, because I've tried it no end of times on a personal level, but I just get bored of it. And when you're working on it full time, you don't want to go home and do more of it, which is why Twitch was so good. So anyway, that's a little tangent about doing the YouTube stuff and the support that you guys have chucked my way, and now hopefully we'll throw to EK as well.
Yeah.
So welcome if you are a new listener to the podcast, or you finally caught up with the fact we continued it. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks. And also, I think that we haven't done a podcast since the Russell T Davies news came out.
That's the other thing. Yeah, that I said. There's a few things we need to talk about, and I scrolled down the Escaping Kasterborous Twitter page at Kasterpod, by the way, and was looking at like the last few times we tweeted. There was the quote tweet of us getting engaged.
Yes.
That said,
Shake my head, just do a
podcast. Just echoing the Kasterpodians, who thankfully aren't vocal about it, as I always say, but in the back of their minds they're like,
"Oh my god,
where's the damn podcast?" Appreciate that.
It's kind of like a running joke now, isn't it?
It was literally 5 days after we did and we released The Runaway Bride.
Yes.
Russell T Davies gets announced as coming back to Doctor Who.
God. I literally nearly died. Like, I think somebody sent me a text or they linked me to a tweet.
It was me.
Or I can't remember whether you were the first one to tell me or whether I saw it, whether somebody else mentioned it as well. But I just remember clicking on this tweet. It must have been you. And being like, I was at work and I literally was like, oh my God. And one of my work colleagues was like, are you okay? I was like, no, Russell T Davies is coming back to Doctor Who. Somebody hold me.
Yeah, it was a Saturday. I was at work because we were doing Le Mans Virtual.
That's
right.
And
my phone buzzed before things were kicking off. And it was it a Saturday? Was it a Friday? It might have been a Friday, actually.
Whatever day it was.
Or whatever day it was. And my phone buzzed, and it was Peter Austin from Vidiots or Triple Jump, whatever you're keeping up with nowadays, what he's doing. Because obviously he and I used to do Doctor Who content together at What Culture before he left to do Vidiots.
Yes.
And we talk about it on and off time, time after time. And it had been a while since we'd spoken, and I just get a message from Peter like, have you seen the news? And I'm like,
what news?
What? I'm really busy doing other stuff, but what? And I'm genuinely, there seems to be nobody else at the company that really cares about Doctor Who, and I am bouncing off the walls like the most. I mean, if we had this debate, we knew that Chris Chibnall was leaving. Like, who would you have as the next showrunner? And like, I don't know enough modern TV to say who I would suggest next. It's kind of the same with actors. Because, I mean, my two top picks for the next Doctor would be, as I've always said, Hayley Atwell, Idris Elba. I'd love either of them, but they're both, arguably, they're too big to do it, really. So that probably wouldn't happen. Also, if Idris Elba might get Bond, I'm game for that too.
Well, that's true.
But, like, yeah, they're my main picks, but I couldn't think of anybody genuine, like a genuine suggestion. But then you'd always say, just get Russell back.
Yeah.
Just get him back. Like, he's been kicking ass with, years and years, and It's a Sin and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's like
God.
he's doing
I
so
still need
well.
to watch that.
Yeah, same. He's refining his craft, and it's like, just get him back on Doctor Who. And the fact that he actually has come back. I'm looking at this tweet, like, where in this Twitter handle is the fake letter, or have they put a white emoji at the end of the name to make it look like a verified
surely
tick?
It must
no
be.
This is actually real.
What is happening? I literally just freaked out, and then all my friends were messaging about it on a group chat, and I was like, oh my god, like I literally cannot believe that the top dog RTD is back in the Doctor Who house, like.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're watching Russell's era now, and I'm literally like, oh, it's so good, so good.
We are big Russell stans. I mean, this you guys all know very much so.
I feel like though,
Russell
if you
stans.
are a fan of Doctor Who and you dislike Russell T Davies' era, then surely you just wouldn't have stuck around and become a Doctor Who fan, because
exactly,
realistically, he rebooted the entire show. He made it. I mean, I know that Moffat made it popular in America, but like, he made it what it was.
It was weird the sudden switch to America, because it just was Series 5. Just all of a sudden, it just blew up in the States. And I don't. Maybe there's more research to do on this. Maybe that's something I could do for a YouTube video. Actually,
maybe
I'll write that down.
Yeah.
About why it blew up in the States, because I can't think of a specific reason as to why it kicked off. Maybe they just thought, you know what? Maybe it was because back when Series 5 was happening, when David Tennant said he was leaving after Series 4 and the specials, the BBC were like, "Well, the show's dead. Mm-hmm. David's so big. How is this going to continue with some random dude called Matt Smith, who no one knows apart from the fact that he shagged Billie Piper in Secret Diary of a Call Girl?
And he's from Northampton.
It's like, they're not going to know who this is. They're not going to know this show, so why bother? So maybe they just gave it a bit more,
publicity,
screen time in the States, and off it went. So maybe that's a YouTube video idea.
Yeah, you should.
No one's steal my YouTube video idea.
Not that anybody else would be nerdy enough to, I don't think, but you never know. It might already exist.
It probably will, but
you can do it proper editing.
If I don't know that video's already been made, I won't feel bad about doing a video that would look like it's copying it.
That's true.
It's like, I did a very quick tangent back in the What Culture Gaming days. I did a video all about Roller Coaster Tycoon and what happened to it, because I obviously, as a massive Tycoon fan, the series went very downhill. So I wrote a script all about this. It's actually still on the gaming channel. It's called Whatever Happened to Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I was literally writing this script. I just finished it, and then suddenly in my recommendations from like 2 days ago at the time, it was like, what happened to Roller Coaster Tycoon? And I'm like, are you kidding?
How dare you?
Why? Damn it. But anyway,
Christ.
Yeah, so Russell's coming back for the 60th anniversary,
which isn't until 2023, sadly, but
yeah, because we've still got the rest of Flux, and then Jodie's got 3 specials.
She's got 3 specials next year.
Yeah, she's got specials as well.
I see. Wait, does one of those include New Year though?
I don't. Well, as in like coming New Year.
Yeah, the New Year special, so January 1st technically, because usually that's what he does. Isn't it? He goes. He has like a bit of a series in April, then he has the New Year special, then the next year he's like, I'm going to do October this year, then he has the New Year special, then he's like, oh, back to April again, and it's just like...
Well, it was like when it was Tennant's era ending, he did an Easter special, which was Planet of the Dead.
Yeah.
Because he jumps on the bus at the beginning and offers Lady Christina de Souza a bit of Easter egg, and then there's Waters of Mars, which was just at some point in August, I think, or something like that.
Just middle of the year.
Then End of Time Part 1 and 2 was Christmas Day and New Year's Day.
But what I mean is, because obviously Chibnall's holiday specials are always on New Year's Day, aren't they, rather than Christmas Day. So when you say Jodie's got 3 specials next year, does that mean one of them is going to be the typical New Year's special, and then there's going to be 2 more?
Well, it's not been confirmed yet when they are, at least as far as I know. So the New Year's special, I'm assuming it'll be New Year's, because apparently everything's been shot
Yeah.
All of her regeneration is done. It's all finished now. So
I'll be intrigued to see what they do with her generation to make us actually care, because I feel like Matt's David's was super emotional. Spoilers, I'm obviously not going to go too in depth. Like, Matt Smith got an entire speech. Capaldi's was very much on a similar wavelength to Matt Smith's, because it was, again,
they really
Moffat.
went into them.
But Jodie's the first Doctor since Chibnall, so I do wonder
It's probably going to be I think for some people it's going to be a really, really hard goodbye, especially if they replace Jodie with a male Doctor again.
Yeah, the problem is you've got to go either one of two. Like, obviously, it's kind of like a bit of a, which option do you go for? Because if you replace it with a male Doctor, then it is kind of like, oh, we're just going back to the trope of a male Doctor. Great, so we had one female to pander, and we're never going to have a female Doctor again. But if you do another female, you're going to have the PC crew, like the PC woke crew, being all like, oh, of course they would put another female in because they have to show us that they're being woke and blah, blah, blah. So either way, you can't win, basically.
That's why I want Idris Elba. Make it a great actor,
to be fair,
and a black dude.
If it was Idris Elba,
and honestly, Idris Elba can
complain.
be really scary. So I wouldn't mind having like Capaldi's sort of anger vibes, but coming from Idris Elba. I'm like,
God, can you imagine?
I'm game for this.
Yeah.
Please.
But
I think it depends on how the rest of this series goes, how Flux goes, how the specials go, because you never know. There might be something that happens in that time that makes us really think, oh my goodness, like this is going to be hard to watch, to see how go.
I don't have any faith in Chibnall whatsoever. Unfortunately.
Not to jump too far forward, but I think it's more going to be people are going to just sort of look at it and go, "You were done dirty. Go do Big Finish."
Oh my god,
they'll give you the good stuff.
That's the thing. Like, I listened to Nerd Cubed, and I'm sure people on him must know who he is. I mention him a lot, and he does a podcast called F Yeah Doctor Who, and in his most recent episode, which was about Flux episode 1, he literally says Jodie's a bad actress because he watched Broadchurch and was like, she's a bad actress. And I was like, no, Dan, Broadchurch was written by Chris Chibnall. So do you not see the pattern here? Like, Jodie on her own, great. I absolutely like, I wouldn't say I love Jodie Whittaker. I don't really think I've seen her in particularly loads, but I like her as an actor, as an actress. Like, but the fact that she keeps being done dirty by Chibnall is like, oh my god, can you just go and do some Big Finish and do some actual Doctor Who stories that would literally prove you can be a good Doctor?
I think once Russell's back in, he is going to jump on the opportunity to get Jodie back and give her some good stuff.
And
because if anyone is good at writing female characters,
it's Russell.
It's Russell.
And that's why I'm really hoping that they do another female Doctor, because I don't want the female Doctor's legacy to be Chibnall, because it would be if they did another male Doctor.
You don't want the people who, as you mentioned, complain about the get woke stuff to arguably to win, because it's like, let's not bother doing a female Doctor again. There's as all these arguments we had back in 2017 with people about the fact that I should never be female. It's like, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter.
She's
the gender of the Doctor is irrelevant.
Alien.
Literally, the only time, as far as I remember, that it's been acknowledged was in Spyfall, when Stephen Fry's like, "Wait, you're a woman?
Yeah.
Okay." And it's like, that's all it needed to be. Done.
But also,
anyway.
it's kind of like, sometimes it hurts being this, like, how do I put this without being horrible to people? The people that, well, I mean, they maybe deserve it, I don't know. The people who are complaining about being the woke, like, crew, as I'm going to call them.
No, they're not the people being woke.
They're not the woke crew. Like,
they're
they
the
are complaining about
the woke
crew. That's what I mean. So, does it hurt being that stupid? Because right now, it's hurting me, feeling like I have to argue with you.
I have to exist in the same universe as
like,
you.
The fact that I can sit here and be like, what does it matter if she's a female Doctor, is... It's not being woke, it's literally just being, there are women that exist in the world, deal with it.
Well, I know that we're jumping forwards a lot here, but like Flux episode 1, you've got Diane, which was going to be John Bishop's Dan's date, who has one arm.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I was
there was a clip going on Twitter, because I saw a bunch of people quote tweeting it, like, what in the hell is this? It was two people doing a podcast review.
Right.
And they were just going on about the fact that the two division agents, one looked like a lesbian and the other looked like a black dude, even though it was a woman.
I'm sorry, what?
I was like, and they were like, oh, it's all woke PC stuff. It's like, literally, they don't even acknowledge what they look like or who they are.
I'm not
they
even
are
being
division
funny.
agents checking on the guy who cosplays as a Needler Reload.
Yeah, literally.
That's irrelevant.
I mean,
and then they were like, oh yeah, so they've forced disability because the woman's got one arm. It's like, is it at all mentioned? Is it at all acknowledged?
And that
is it relevant in any way, shape, or form?
That is exactly the point of casting disabled people in normal roles, because you shouldn't have to cast a disabled person in a disabled specific role just to make a storyline out of the fact that they are disabled. Disabled people exist in the world. They have normal day-to-day lives. She probably lives,
Exactly.
you know, she literally lives with one arm every day of her life.
Apparently she's done like RSC stuff. She's like a very, very acclaimed actress.
And that's the thing, it's like, just because she's got one arm, it doesn't suddenly mean that the BBC have got like a quota of disabled people they have to cast.
It's political. It's like, you know, you jump on a train or you're walking down the street and you see somebody in a wheelchair, or you see somebody with crutches because they have only one leg.
Yeah.
Or you see somebody very blatantly wearing a prosthetic. It's like, oh no, the high street's gone woke.
Literally, that's what pisses me off.
It's so baffling. It's so strange as to why people get up in arms about it.
Isn't it?
It's really dumb. So yeah, it's like, you know, people like that who review Doctor Who who whinge about that. Obviously, I have very much gone on the opposite burner and been like, dude, shut up.
Yeah,
it's
but then
not relevant.
again,
it's like, if you don't like, I mean, Doctor, as we've said this a million times, Doctor Who has always been quote unquote woke. It's never been arguably backwards.
No.
I mean, they lean onto it a bit when they had David Bradley's first Doctor back, because, you know, he was a product of another time, and thankfully that approach to Doctor had died out quite quickly.
How old was he when he first started playing the Doctor? He was easily 60.
I think he was in his 50s or 60s.
Exactly. So he's already lived 50 or 60 years at the time of them starting filming. And so he was probably born in quite literally like 1908 or like 1918. Or, do you know what I mean? Like, he was probably alive during the First World War. So the fact that he's literally come from a time...
1908.
Oh my God, that was a complete and utter guess.
Yeah. Well done.
But
like, he's a product of a different time. But,
and so him going into that role in 1960s was obviously meant that he was going to be a bit more like sexist, a bit more this, a bit more that, because that's just how he'd lived his life. But now we shouldn't be sexist. We never should have been. That's not the point I'm saying, is that it was okay then, so it's okay now. But like, I'm just saying that, you know, times have changed, and so therefore we have to change. And she's as far as I have seen so far, the woman who played Diane had credible acting skills, so what the does it matter if she's only got half an arm?
Exactly. Anyway, we have gone very off topic. But yeah, so YouTube has been going really well after like 1-2 videos, because the first Escaping Kasterborous video version of the podcast has gone up, because if you are listening to this, all of the episodes up to this point I'm putting out like 2 a week to just get them on YouTube, and then when we've caught up with our audio recordings, they'll go out at the same time as videos.
Whenever
so
that
not
is.
like with us on screen, it's just like a graphic, but we might do some stuff actually like on camera at some point. Russell T Davies is coming back to Doctor Who, which is absolutely astonishing news, and I think everyone should be very excited, especially if you either haven't watched Russell's era, or
how could you not?
Like, or you didn't sort of.
If you hadn't watched Russell's era,
like
you literally wouldn't have seen any of Tennant.
Or Eccleston, Amy, don't skip 9.
Yeah, I know, I'm not skipping 9, I'm just saying.
But speaking of skipping 9, because we've done all of 9, let's talk about
Smith and Jones.
Smith and Jones. We get there
we
like
are
halfway
half an
through.
hour into this podcast, and we haven't even mentioned the episode yet.
Hey guys, welcome to Smith and Jones, episode 1 of series 3 of Doctor Who, aired on the 31st of March 2007, written by... It's a series opener. Therefore...
Mark Gatiss.
Russell T Davies. Mark Gatiss?
Hey, he writes...
Oh my god, guys.
something.
Amy's a fake fan.
Oh yeah, because I don't know
fan.
who wrote every single episode.
You're a Doctor Who fan? Name the writer of every single Doctor Who episode since 1963.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Get on my level, because I don't know either.
No,
anyway,
exactly.
series opener, we're introduced to Freema Agyeman as Martha Jones, who we definitely didn't see in Army of Ghosts as her cousin, who
Adiola.
didn't make it out of her tortured
Adiola,
tower.
she says.
She
mentions her in this episode. I'm sure she said Adiola.
She does have a full name credit in that episode, but yeah, she plays her cousin in that,
quote
but she's
unquote
not,
identical cousin.
yeah. And she's working as a doctor at the was it Royal Hope Hospital?
Yeah, something like that.
So
that's a bit on the nose, isn't it?
And the rain goes upwards. Here are the Jadoon and Amy's favourite villain of all time,
Straw Bitch.
Straw Bitch. It took me most of the episode to remember what she was called.
Yes.
Plasmavore. I had something else in my head. Vesperform. That's what I had in my head. But Vesperform is Unicorn and the Wasp in Series 4. So it was like just before she was going to say Plasmavore, and I'm like, it was Plasmavore. I knew it was in my head somewhere.
Yeah.
And she sucks off old men with straws.
Well, she doesn't suck them off. She
just sucks them dry. sounds just as bad. But anyway, so the doctor goes into hospital because he sees weird lightning stuff, and Martha goes to work, and the Jadoon rock up, and right. So, in case you didn't know this, there's a fun little thing about the Jadoon, about why they were conceived, why they were named what they are, and why the doctor has a specific line in this episode, because he says a Jadoon platoon on the moon.
Did Russell create the Jadoon?
Yes.
Cool.
Because he wrote the episode.
Well, yeah.
I'm pretty certain they're made by him. I actually have to look in the credits of Fugitive of the Jadoon from Series 12 and see whether there's a credit that says Jadoon created by Russell T Davies, because usually in episodes that hark back to old villains or use old villains, they normally have credits. So it's like Daleks created by Terry Nation, Cybermen created by whoever. I might have to see that, actually. I want to say there is, but I might be lying. But yeah, so the Jadoon are these big rhino dudes who I honestly forget how much I like them.
Yeah, they're a bit of an outlier in terms of, like, I want quote-unquote enemies, because they only really appear, like, a handful of times throughout the entirety of New Who. And so you kind of forget about them.
They're a neutral force, really.
They're a what?
They're a neutral force.
Well, exactly.
Because they are police for hire. But yeah, so because we see them in this, we see them in Stolen Earth when they go to when the Doctor and Donna go to the Shadow Proclamation.
Yeah.
We see them again in the Pandora Opens.
Yeah.
And then we see them again in Fugitive of the Jadoon. I don't think.
Is that a Jodie episode?
Fugitive, yeah.
Yeah,
with,
I thought so.
The Fugitive Doctor.
Yeah.
And all that stuff, yeah.
Was that where Captain Jack came back?
That was where Captain Jack came back. Won't be hearing from him again.
We don't talk about him anymore, yeah.
Yeah, we don't talk about him anymore. So yeah, basically, Russell created the Jadoon as a bit of a piss take for David Tennant, because obviously David Tennant is Scottish. He does have a Scottish accent, but he puts on a very good
on the moon.
English accent when he was doing Casanova and he was doing Doctor Who. He's done it a lot for. I think he does it in Good Omens as well. I've watched like one episode of Good Omens, but he's done loads of stuff with his natural accent and also with his English accent. And obviously, being Scottish, 00 is quite distinct. So Jadoon platoon on the moon was like Russell going, "Good luck, mate. Enjoy that." And it's very reminiscent of She Who Must Not Be Named putting Harry Pocketed It into future Harry Potter books, because Stephen Fry found it very difficult to say pocketed it in the audiobooks of the Potter books. So it's basically just Russell T Davies playing a prank on David Tennant by making him say Jadoon platoon on the moon a lot over the course of an episode. So
which was very entertaining.
That's a fun little fact for all you Doctor Who nerds out there.
Which most of you probably knew, but
I mean,
it's fun.
Maybe
it's
some
fun
of you
to
maybe
share.
didn't, but it's fun. So okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that is Martha.
Don't call her that. That's rude.
I had a feeling you'd take it that way, but you know I didn't refer to her like that because Freema Agyeman is skinny.
She's hot.
She is hot. There's one thing we don't do. One thing we don't hold back from in this podcast is we like to acknowledge the hot.
We like to simp.
We do simp. We simp good. We're good
fine.
simps. So Martha, from what I perceive, from what I've seen in comments and on videos and just general chatter about the character, Martha's quite, I want to say, polarizing. Well, I mean, I use the technical term, you use the layman's term.
What's it called? Anyway. What's it called when something becomes like well known in, you know how you call like a vacuum a Hoover, because it's become branded rather than.
Oh, I've forgotten what the term is.
You know what the term is. You know what I'm about.
Colloquial?
Well, I don't know if colloquial is the right term, but yeah, that kind of thing.
I know what you mean.
You went for polarizing. I went Marmite.
I went for polarizing with the technical term. Polarizing character at times, because some people just really don't like her. Because for context, obviously, he's just come off the events, or ish come off the events of The Runaway Bride. He's still getting over Rose, but he's in a different state. He's like in the next stage of grief, basically. Mm-hmm. He was very emotionally distraught in Runaway Bride. And hence why, Donna kept asking him her name, etc., etc. Whereas in this, he's just very defensive. Mm-hmm. Like, whenever it's brought up, he just goes off on one. But the reason why Martha's so polarizing, potentially, I think she loses this trait quite significantly by the end of the series and throughout her subsequent appearances. But it's the fact that she basically falls for the Doctor immediately. Yeah,
I don't know if she loses it by the end of the series, because we have that entire thing at the end of the series, which I'm not going to try and spoil if you've not seen it, but if you have seen it, you know exactly the interaction I'm talking about, where she's all like, meh, 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 I love you, and meh, 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 I know you don't love me, and meh, meh, like that stuff.
It is a bit, yeah.
So I would say
that's more her getting over it.
She doesn't lose it over this series, but she definitely, in her subsequent appearances, does not have that anymore. Which, rewatching this episode, I very much like her character, right? Her general character, she's very headstrong, she's very leadership, she's very takes care of other people, and I like those qualities. Compared to Martha, Rose was actually quite selfish, if you sort of look at it like that, because Rose kind of abandons Mickey, she abandons her mum, like, whereas Martha's very much like, I can't, like, I've got this to do, whereas Rose is just kind of like, yeah, sure, whatever, I'll come away with you.
She's not done a Yaz. Well, I mean, she kind of has, but it's like, you know, Yaz just drops everything when, as a police officer, like, I mean, I said this before, that backstory for Yaz is like basically non-existent, because the one episode they could have capitalized on it, which was Rackets in the UK, they just completely ignored it. Whereas in this episode, she is a doctor.
Yeah,
and she does tend to people when she can.
Yeah.
While chasing around a skinny guy in a suit.
Well, quite. And that's what I like about her character. And I don't dislike Martha as a companion. I will say, like, I know I say quite a lot that Martha's my least favourite, but it is purely because she has this overarching, oh my god, I'm suddenly in love with you, within the first half an hour of this episode. And it's like, I mean, obviously Russell wrote in the kiss to be like, oh my god, he's kissed her.
A genetic transfer, which still sounds just as bad.
I know. And it's
if anything, it sounds worse.
Yeah. It's kind of like, really, Russell, I mean, I get it, you were playing it for kind of the shock factor, and also because you needed some sort of way to get people invested in Martha, maybe, I don't know, or maybe you needed a reason for her to hang on to him, hence why she goes on an adventure with him for the first time. But it just feels a little bit, I mean, yeah, okay, maybe if I was in her situation as well and somebody looking like David Tennant ended up coming up to me and kissing me within 10 minutes, I might be a little bit like, I can have a piece of you, but I wouldn't fall in love with them. That's the difference, I think.
No.
And it becomes very, very strong, very quick. If I remember rightly, in the next episode, it's literally like bang, and she's obsessed.
Well, yeah, they not really spoilers, but they basically share a hotel room, and she's very much giving him the sort of, I mean, if I remember rightly, it's like the sort of Hakuna Matata's kind of eyes, and he's just like, oh, but Rose though. But, and that's, it's not something that's ever really bothered me about Martha. I don't see that as her sole sort of
trait
thing. Yeah. As you say, she's a very strong character. She's very accepting of whatever random rubbish is going on. I think because of her first story being in a hospital, it sort of introduces her to the world that she's going to be in over the course of this series and arguably for the rest of her life. It gives her a comfort zone to make the subsequent encounters with danger and extraterrestrials feel a bit more homely, but like, you know, the hospital's where she operates. This is where she is the boss.
Yeah.
So the fact that her first encounter with Jadoon and with all this stuff is in the place where she is genuinely feeling the most comfortable helps her go into her subsequent adventures knowing that she can stand up for herself as well as work well with the Doctor. You know, she was just... It's I don't want to just immediately compare her to Clara, but she seems like it's hard to sort of say this and not sound like I'm just hating on Clara for the sake of it, because arguably it could be the same with her. It's the fact that she is just this sharp character straight out of the gate. She is comfortable, she's confident, and she just goes with it. Mm-hmm. But she doesn't know everything. Yes,
whereas Clara very much knew too did. Much.
So that's... I'm not going to dwell on that for much longer, because I kind of thought, oh, that's a sort of a tangent. But then I'm like, that may make me sound a bit hypocritical.
No,
but
I agree though.
Clara seemed to know everything like straight away, and it's like that's the thing that's always annoyed me about her. Martha doesn't. She just goes, "What about this? What about that?" And the Doctor's like, "That's a good point, actually."
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I quite like that element of Martha's character. How compared to Rose, she actually, like, not to bag on Rose or anything, because obviously at the end of Rose's tenure, she obviously did end up becoming basically the Doctor's, like, better half, for lack of a better word, or other half, shall we say. Whereas Martha, straight out of the gate, is she thinks for herself. Yeah. Whereas Rose, I feel like never thought for herself to begin with. She never tried to make those connections by herself, because she got introduced to the Doctor in a very different way, where he basically saved her, whereas Martha was operating under the guise that she would have to save herself. And I think that is the big difference there, is that Martha starts out thinking, right, we need to think about this logically. I am training to be a doctor. What logical conclusions can I gather from the fact that we're on the moon but we're still breathing? And it's that, like, what's the word I'm looking for here? Transformation? I don't know. Whatever the word is I'm looking for. It's that process that she goes through that is like, right, I'm going to have to fight for these people now. So what can we work out? Where can we get to? And then the Doctor comes in and they kind of match up when Martha's already made those jumps. Whereas Rose was very much, oh, what's going on? And then the Doctor comes in to save her and she's like, oh, hang on a second, I've been saved. And not that that makes you sound like I don't like Rose.
That makes you sound like a real bitch.
But
yeah,
you get
I know what
point.
You mean. Contextually, they're introduced to the Doctor in very different ways. Yeah. So Martha gets to shine from day one. Mm-hmm. Rose kind of grows into that and becomes the companion that we all know and love, basically. Yes. But yeah, so Martha falling for the Doctor quite suddenly. I mean, you know, you can sort of see the way she looks at him, and she kind of leans into it a lot at the end of the episode, which is like, oh, take me out on a date. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's actually just kind of annoying. He gets really pissy with her. And like I said, this is the part of the Doctor that's very defensive. And he's like, oh, she was called Rose. It's kind of like, yeah, you've still not got over your ex, have you? And then it's like, don't think you're replacing her. And she's like, all right, mate, Jesus, I wasn't intending to replace her.
She literally didn't even know she was replacing anyone. She was literally just like, I'm just here.
She does. Well, the thing is, doesn't she say, like, you don't have any backup or anything? And he's like, no, I'm here alone. And then he gets on the TARDIS and he's like, oh yeah, I used to go around with this girl. And it's like, yeah, you definitely brought her up in this conversation,
David. I don't think
he
says I'm here alone, because he doesn't actually answer
she asks whether she has a co-pilot or something.
And he goes,
but then he brings up the fact that he used
for 10 minutes and, you know, you're asking all these personal questions. That's what he says, doesn't he?
Yeah. So anyway, I don't find that facet of Martha to be such a standout thing. And at the end of the day, you know, you might get annoyed with the fact that she does fall for him. The kiss scene, the genetic transfer, you know, you see it on her face. She's like, oh, damn. I mean, again, simping is coming into play. But again,
like I said,
you're getting snogged by David Tennant. You're going to be doing that irrelevant. You could be literally, you know, falling through space, falling down a hole, big spikes at the bottom. You're definitely going to die. You get kissed by David. You're still going to have that feeling. and then splat.
Yeah.
You'll still have the same feeling.
I still would be like, oh my God.
But fact of the matter is, you can whinge about that kind of thing all you like, but don't ever tell me you've never known somebody who just falls for people like that.
Instantly.
We all know somebody who just goes head over heels for something, even if they know nothing about them. If they know whether they're real, they will just fall head over heels for somebody.
I mean,
it can happen.
It's true, and it I'm sure. And if you don't know that person, check yourself, because you might be that person.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we do. We know somebody. We probably all have come into contact with somebody like that, maybe when they were at school, or like, you know, when you're 15 and your pal is like, I met a boy over the weekend and he's my love of my life, you know.
Yeah.
It's just...
I met a boy in the queue for the ride
but to be fair,
and we're going to be together forever.
to be fair to Martha, when you're a 15-year-old girl and you meet somebody in the back alley smoking cigarettes and puffing on WKD... Puffing on WKD?
Puffing on WKD?
You know...
That's a new one.
Didn't mean that. And, you know, it's very different to what she went through with the doctor, because she actually has kind of a veritable excuse as to why she falls for him so quickly. He literally does save her life.
True.
So...
And like I said, in that situation, you've just transported to the moon, you're getting scanned by rhinos, and you know there's some weird vampire bitch with a straw. What else are you going to do?
Well, quite.
What else are you going to do? Speaking of straw bitch, let's quickly transition onto her and her motivation, what she's doing, going around sucking people off. I mean, sucking their blood.
Sucking people dry.
Sucking old men and sexy suited Time Lords dry. That concept of her just draining, being a vampire and just sucking your blood through a straw, it's just weirdly morbid.
Yeah.
Because obviously with Doctor Who, they can't lean into it, really. They could have maybe lent into the horror aspect, which they do in Doctor Who sometimes, where they really go a bit gross with it. Empty Child will always be the standout for me.
Well, yeah.
They could have shown them the guy draining away, kind of like how the dude ages in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Not that you'll know what that is.
No,
but
not clue.
There's the scene with the Holy Grail where he just ages and dissolves in front of this woman. They could have gone for that.
Is that the bit where that skull disintegrates?
Basically, you might have seen a clip of it.
I've seen...
It's not when the guy melts. That's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Okay.
That's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right.
But yeah, they could have lent into that. You see him obviously post suck.
Suck with two C's.
And he's just completely pale. And it's like with a little red spot on his neck. That's it. Like they could have lent into that. They could have, you know, in the Lazarus Experiment, which is in this series, when
isn't that
they
like
get
one or two
post-Scorpion.
episodes time?
Yeah, it's not long away.
Yeah.
You see them all dried up and stuff. They could have lent into that, but they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But then, as you said, the idea that it's just this woman with a straw
makes it
weirdly
extra creepy.
Yeah.
Especially since she's an old woman. Like, most old women are supposed to be nice and friendly, not horrible and bloodsucky.
Yeah. I feel bad for Anne Reid because I don't think of anything that I've seen her in.
I don't think I've ever seen her in anything else.
But whenever I see her in any kind of like trailer for something, I'm just like, it's the straw bitch with the crazy eyes. She's got crazy eyes. It's kind of like
the woman who plays...
I can't remember her name off the top of her head.
Yeah.
The woman who plays Blonfell Foch. I can't see her as anyone else other than...
I was talking about the woman in Midnight who plays the blonde woman.
Sky.
I literally can't see anybody else but her.
Oh, like I said, the woman who plays Blonfell Foch, she was in The Worst Witch, the TV series. She was like, was she like the dinner lady or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Because there's one scene of The Worst Witch I remember so vividly with her, is because they were talking about how food that's been conjured by magic doesn't fill you up.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I just very vividly remember seing her and another character sitting in a room like eating pizza or something, just like, yeah, magic food doesn't fill you up, you can just eat it and eat it and eat it.
God, I wish.
I don't know why. I remember nothing about The Worst Witch.
Does it stop you gaining weight too?
Assumedly, yes, but then you don't actually get any nutrients from it, so it's a bit useless, really.
I don't eat
have one
food
apple
for the nutrients.
to tide you over, and then just loads and loads of pizza.
I eat food for the taste.
Yeah, but yeah, I feel bad for her because she just, obviously the thing about doing Doctor Who is that actors get worried about being typecast, but just her demeanour just always screams she's evil in some way, shape, or form.
Also, I said to you, didn't I? how strong does that straw have to be to pierce through human flesh and into your bloodstream? Because
I'm intrigued.
Something with that much diameter or like gap in the middle,
you mean, the diameter
is not very structurally sound. Have you ever tried to force a straw into anything like an apple or so? It is hard.
I think maybe she's just really, really good at the suck.
I thought you were going to say she's really, really strong, and I was about to be like, yeah, I can see that.
Well, that's what I mean, but I could have said she's really strong, or I could have said she's good at the suck. I knew which one I was going to pick.
She's got a good
I think
technique.
maybe it is a genuinely normal straw. She went to the hospital shop, got a straw because they sell straws there, and she's really good at the suck.
Oh, you've got a shop.
She's literally the binary opposite of the guy trying to drink strawberry milk through a cardboard tube.
Oh yeah, we've watched that video far too much.
You've not seen that. You probably have. There's a video of a guy he's got like a glass of milk in front of him or something, and he just has a toilet roll tube, and he like puts it in his mouth, and he tries to drink this glass of milk through a cardboard tube, and he just, obviously because your mouth is so open and you like almost inhale it, he just coughs.
And it obviously
launches backwards into his face.
Quick science lesson for you: the way a straw works is it has to be thin enough so that the pressure that is on the inside of the straw is like greater than the pressure on the outside of the straw, or one of the ways around, I can't remember, so that it forces the liquid up through the straw. With a toilet roll tube, there's too much gap for that pressure to escape. For that. So you'd have to have a huge amount of pressure to suck that up. And he goes and just like spits it all out over every single bit of the camera, and it is hilarious.
Hence why you need to be good at the suck.
Yeah.
So
she's probably a very strong
probably
suck.
Could drink chalky milk through a cardboard tube.
Probably.
I think that's a Doctor Who science lesson. Doctor Who Mythbusters. That's another YouTube idea.
Can straw bitch suck up strawberry milk through a toilet
How
roll
good
tube?
is straw bitch at the suck? Oh dear.
Will it suck versus will it blend?
Will it suck? That is the question.
Anyway,
Jesus, like that's peak 2008 YouTube for you. Let us know on Twitter if you remember Will It Blend. Anyway, more important things to talk about. Let's talk about quickly the Joneses, because we're introduced to all of them at the start of the episode. No cold open at the beginning of this episode. I couldn't remember whether there was one. I couldn't think of what it was.
One.
No, but obviously it just kicks straight in with the titles, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I just genuinely couldn't remember whether there was one. But straight away we're introduced to the Joneses.
That awful,
with a lot of loud music.
Awful phone conversation dynamic that quite literally no one ever
Everyone's
has
ringing Martha at the same
in
time.
their life. I mean, it's peak 2007, really, isn't it? Like, oh, quick phone call, gotta go. Oh, quick phone call, because they had flip phones.
I mean, she's there using a flip phone, so peak 2007.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
so we get introduced to, obviously, Martha first. We get introduced to Tish,
the sister.
Her sister, played by, I'm going to butcher her name. I have heard it be spoken, but it's like Gugu Mbatha Raw. Or Mbata Raw, I'm not entirely sure. Most people will know her as playing the judge in Loki. So yeah, if you've seen Loki, you've seen Tish.
Yeah.
Because she plays like sort of the main-ish bad guy, really, through the course of the series, which is quite cool. We're introduced to her mum, who we also knew as one of the cats in New Earth. If you didn't realise that before, go back and watch New Earth again. You can tell which one she is.
Trust me.
It's just the eyes, that sort of constant scowl.
She's got very distinctive
she does have resting bitch
eyes,
face,
doesn't she?
Yeah, but you can very much tell which cat she is. We're introduced to her dad and his skanky girlfriend
and his gold digger.
Yeah, very much so.
And her
then we're also introduced
21-year-old brother.
21-year-old brother played by Reggie Yates. Bollocks, is he 21 at that point? I might be wrong. How old is Reggie Yates now?
Actually, yeah, Google
I'm gonna
it.
have a look.
Because if he's under 21, I will be
shooketh. Do you know what? It was... when was 2007 was what? 14 years ago?
Yes.
He was 24.
Okay, so not far off then.
No. It's just, I don't know what it is. Obviously, growing up with like Radio 1 and watching stuff on CBBC with Reggie Yates in it, when he says, oh, he's 21, I'm like, rubbish, is he 21? Right. But he was only 24.
Fair enough.
When they did that. But I mean, Reggie Yates hasn't aged a day,
never.
it seems. Okay, just because of mentioning Reggie Yates on CBBC, I don't know whether you've watched this. Did you ever watch Only in America, which was Fern and Reggie going? They had like a soft top American muscle car, and they just drove around America. They did like this almost documentary series doing stuff in America.
No, sorry.
Only in America.
I think the only thing I remember Reggie from was he with Nev, the blue bear? Did he have stuff to do with Nev? Was it Nev? Is that the blue bear? Was that what the blue bear was called?
Yes, it was Nev, because he did Smile.
Yes.
Which was the Sunday morning stuff with Barney Harwood.
Yes.
Who's on Blue Peter now. And he also did Bear Behaving Badly.
What?
I might be wrong. Maybe he did do stuff with Nev.
Do you know, I'm sure that's where I know him from. I mean, obviously, as a kid, I watched quite a lot of CBBC, but I'm sure that I remember him being on something to do with Nev. Oh, do you remember those games on the CBBC website?
Yes, he did used to do Smile.
Yeah.
So yes,
I knew it.
He was there with Nev.
Yeah, I thought I did.
Yeah, he did Smile with Fern Cotton from 2002 to 2004.
There you go then.
And then obviously, like I said, they did Only in America.
2002 to 2004. So we were 7.
7
to 9. So that is, I'm astonished I remember that, because that was 20 years ago.
My best mate was obsessed with Smile.
Oh, really?
He loved it.
I remember playing the games on the
because I did dance classes on a Saturday.
website.
I never did, like SMTV, never watched it because I was always doing dance classes on a Saturday, but I could watch Smile. Yeah, Only in America was a 2005 TV series.
Damn.
Where they went across America and did stuff. And the one thing I remember very vividly from that, which is the episode on summer camps I'm looking at right now, is like the summer camp leader and their posse of kids all sang like a song welcoming Fern and Reggie, and it was the cringiest thing I'd ever seen. But yeah, let me know if you fellow CBBC avid watchers back in the day, because I was obsessed with wanting to work for the BBC when I was growing up.
You were.
That we're watching Only in America. Did you watch that?
Do you know why I probably didn't watch it? Was because around the time that we turned 9 and 10 was when Mum first bought us Sky. And so we went from being CBBC kids to thinking, oh my God, we're going to watch so much CBBC channel when we get Sky. No, we turned into Disney Channel kids through and through. So,
that's fair enough, because there were still some banging shows on Disney Channel back
Disney
then.
Channel,
I watched everything.
What else did we watch? We watched a bit of Toon Disney before it became Disney XD, and then before it became something else.
Because
we watched.
Disney XD still going?
What did we watch? We watched Totally Spies.
Mate, that was on Fox Kids.
Right, okay.
Or Jetix, as it was.
Jetix.
I remember it. I remember Jetix being the sort of, they had like a slot, like 2 hours, like how they did. Was it on CITV? They did Toonatic or something.
Yeah, something like that.
It was like that, and then eventually they rebranded the whole channel around it.
But we watched.
Because on that
Totally
you had
Spies.
Totally Spies, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, or Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue was my Power Rangers back in the day. That's good stuff.
Never seen Power Rangers. Lol, don't sue me. But
I mean, I'm not going to. Power Rangers is very much not your thing.
No, it's not.
But it very much was mine.
But we like those, like, because Phineas and Ferb originally was on Disney XD. I think before.
It was after we like grew out of it. Really, Phineas and Ferb.
No, what was it? Because I seem to remember that Phineas
so.
and Ferb started on Disney XD and then moved over to Disney Channel or something like that. Or because Disney XD used to be Toon Disney, and Disney Channel was very much purely.
Oh, it's 2007 Phineas and Ferb started.
Yeah, it wasn't that, like, me and my sister watched it religiously, hence why she's obsessed with Perry the Platypus.
I mean, hell yeah.
Well, I mean, he's great. But my point is that I'm pretty sure that Disney XD used to be the Disney Channel for cartoons, because it used to be called Toon Disney, and Disney Channel was the live action Disney Channel like shows, and now they just show it all in one place. That was where you had things like
That's So Raven, Hannah Montana, Sweet Life, stuff like that.
And so that's what me and my sister basically, from the age of, I don't know, 8 or 9, grew up on. I remember the first episode of Hannah Montana airing, and that was like the next 5-6 years of my life. I was obsessed, maybe not 5-6 years, because that would have meant I was 16, maybe 4 years. I was obsessed with Smiley Virus. Can we just like acknowledge that? Like, I used to want to.
I don't know
be
how
her.
I watched everything. Like watched loads of CBBC. We were reminiscing about the game shows at work the other day. You know, Bamzuki,
50-50.
Get Your Own Back, 50-50.
Get Your Own Back was
and
a
then
killer show.
Get Your Own Back was great. And then things like from CITV, things like Temple Run, Jungle Run, which was
I recently
absolutely banging.
went on YouTube and did like a bit of a binge watch of shows that I
They have
remember
whole
watching from a
episodes on
kid.
YouTube. It's awesome.
I watched Jungle Run. I watched a bit of Raven. I watched Art Attack.
Oh, Raven. And I was obsessed with Art Attack.
Art Attack was incredible.
But like watching all the stuff on CBBC, and I watched like stuff on Cartoon Network. So Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, Dexter's Lab.
I never watched any of that.
Johnny Bravo, stuff like that. Boomerang, because it just showed Tom and Jerry, because I adore Tom and Jerry.
Yeah.
I love that show, love that to pieces. Stuff on Nickelodeon, so SpongeBob, obviously.
Again,
Fairly Odd Parents.
Fairly Odd Parents was an absolute
You watched Fairly Odd Parents, but you didn't watch
banger.
SpongeBob. And then obviously stuff on Disney Channel, stuff on Jetix.
Yeah.
And then just watching loads of Challenge. Me and my
Oh
nan
my
just used to
god,
watch Family
Takeshi's
Fortunes with Les Dennis.
Castle.
Takeshi's Castle.
Oh, what an absolute
Family
killer
Fortunes.
show.
Takeshi's Castle.
Catchphrase.
Strike It Lucky and Strike It Rich. Catchphrase.
The old catchphrase
all
with
that
Roy
stuff.
Walker, though, not the new catchphrase.
Classic Challenge stuff. Crystal Maze.
Oh,
Fort
Crystal
Boyard.
Maze. Just
I don't know how I just don't watch TV anymore, and I
No.
find that baffling that when I was a kid I just watched so much
But this
TV.
is the thing, we've grown up in that kind of era now where TV just isn't the done thing for kids anymore. Like, yeah, okay, you watch it when you're really young because parents need to stick you in front of something. But to be fair, even kids don't watch TV nowadays. They like babies will sit in front of
watch
YouTube videos because there's everything to access for free. Why wouldn't you put your kids in front of 50 hours of Old MacDonald had a farm to keep them quiet?
I mean, the thing is, like,
Or stick.
Oh my god! I mean, that's off CBeebies. So, the fact that we still have Doctor Who to watch, which is going to be broadcast only, I don't think Doctor Who will ever get relegated to. I mean, even BBC Three's getting a channel again.
Yeah.
So it's like
That's probably
get
down to
relegated to being-
RuPaul's Drag Race, I would imagine.
maybe, but like, yeah, the fact that we still have something on. I was about to say terrestrial. I probably still refer to it as terrestrial TV.
Freeview.
Like the fact we still have something like that to watch. Free sat, actually, Amy. We have free sat
Free
here
sat.
in this house. Like we still have that to watch every week. It's why I don't mind the fact that things like the Marvel series on Disney Plus, they come out weekly.
Yeah.
They just drop them all at once. Like when we get the next series of Big Mouth, which is a Friday, I think, this Friday coming.
Right.
When we get the next series of The Witcher, which is in December, when I get Formula 1 Drive to Survive Series 4.
Oh,
That's
I need
just
to
stuff I can
watch
just
Lock
binge
and
in
Key
one
on
go.
Netflix,
You need
Series
to watch
2.
Lock and Key. Like, you just watch it all in one go.
Yeah.
And I miss that idea of watching it week to week. I can't think of what it was on... I think there was something on Netflix that I watched that was released week to week.
Yeah?
I can't remember what it might have been.
I can't remember either. Sex Education. Oh, that's a great show while we're here. While we're on the topic of
Very much
Netflix binging.
We have barely talked about Smith and Jones.
We
this
really
week,
haven't. I'm
honestly.
really sorry. Where did we get to?
Honestly.
We got to Reggie Yates. That was the
we've
thing.
talked about the family, and it's like, so okay, let's get back on topic. Smith and Jones overall as a series opener.
Pretty
I
good.
actually forget how strong it is.
Yeah.
Really.
I do too. I mean, it's one of those episodes that I think you forget because it's buried under the pile of Martha's like future stories. Because I mean, I remember Rose's first episode because it was the reboot. Like you can't not remember Rose's first episode. But like I mean, Catherine Tate's first episode is a bit kind of swept under the rug because she's not a very good Donna as
Because
we
she's a
discussed.
bitch, innit?
Yeah.
As we discussed, she's not a very likable character.
And I feel
really.
like at this point in Doctor Who, we've now had 2 series and 3 Christmas specials. Is that right?
2 series and 2 specials.
I thought it was 3 specials.
No. You're thinking of that as if there was one before.
Right, okay.
Eccleston.
In any
We've
case.
only had Christmas Invasion and Runaway Bride so far.
Oh, yeah. So, it's kind of, we've now getting to the point where we've watched enough Doctor Who to start being overwhelmed by the amount of storylines that exist, whereas when Rose was the companion, that was all we had to know, was just Rose.
Laughs in Doctor Who Flux
Well,
chapter
yeah,
1.
okay, yeah, literally. Flux was a whole different kettle of fish, but what I mean is Martha's first episode probably gets forgotten quite a lot because it doesn't particularly lead on to anything outstanding within Martha's character.
It doesn't stick out,
no,
really. And that's why, like I said earlier, that I forget how much I actually enjoy watching the Jadoon do their thing.
And
because
actually,
they're
it's
kind
a
of
good,
fun.
solid episode. And do you know why it's a good, solid episode? Chibnall, take notes. Because not a lot happens. Because you quite literally have a hospital that goes to the moon. You have one enemy who you think is the enemy but is not. You have a second enemy who is the enemy. You have a well-rounded solution that doesn't just suddenly become, oh my god, yes, of course, I know how I'm going to fix this problem within 5 minutes. Thank you, Moffat. But also, it's like, you don't know what his plan, what the Doctor's plan is until he's in the middle of executing it, which I really like, because you're sort of like, oh, how's he going to get out of this one? I don't understand. What's he done the kiss for? What's this? What's this? And it all just progressively makes sense, but it's well-paced throughout the entire thing. There was not a single point of this episode where I sat there thinking, God, this is dragging on a bit, or God, this is boring, or like, oh my God, what's happening now? Whereas a lot of Flux episode 1, I was thinking, oh my god, really? Are we really here? Like, what's happening?
We've got a lot to go with that, so it's always like take that sort of approach of let's throw everything at the wall with a pinch of salt, because we need to see where it goes to. If it ends up being all rectified and sorted, then great, but we'll wait and see. But
yeah.
As an example, just one more thing just popped back into my head when you talk about, like, you know, Chibnall take notes and not much happens and so on. An example that you pointed out when we got to it, when the Doctor and the Martha, the Doctor and the Martha go out onto the balcony, and it's like, how are we still breathing? Here's Tennant's 10th Doctor, here's Jodie Whittaker's 13th Doctor, and this isn't obviously on Tennant and Whittaker as actors themselves, it's on what they were given in the script. What does Tennant do? He picks up a rock and he throws it to find out what's going on. What would Jodie have done?
Scanned it.
Sonic screwdriver.
She would have been like,
that's
oh,
what I meant
readings.
when I reviewed Flux chapter 1. Like, this is what the Doctor's missing, like the physicality of, like, I'm going to work stuff out, I'm just going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the idea that, for example, again, the scene where the Doctor is using a sonic screwdriver and going through that computer, he's scanning it and we're seeing the windows all empty.
But that's
whereas,
appropriate.
for example, Jodie would have, like, scanned it and then looked at a screwdriver rather than looking at the screen, potentially.
But you see, I
say that she literally uses a laptop in Flux chapter 1, but that's
bit different.
After already scanning loads of stuff with the screwdriver.
But you see, what I find appropriate about the fact that he's using a sonic screwdriver for the computer is because it is technology that you can access with sonic waves. What Jodie does is scans literally every piece of fibre that exists in the universe and goes, I'm getting readings, as if it's going to just suddenly come back, like it's a bloody dolphin under the ocean that's going at everything. Like, they use echolocation. Jodie might as well just have a bloody beacon on top of her forehead that scans everything for all I care. Like, whereas Tennant, also what I liked about Tennant in this episode, sorry, going off on a slight tangent, was the fact that when he goes into the MRI room with the straw bitch, he obviously puts on that fake, oh my god, do you see the rhinos? We're in space, we're this, we're that, and he pretends not to have a clue what he's on about. But what I like about that scene is that you can clearly tell that he has spent a lot of time with Rose, and it's one of the things that I don't like about Matt Smith's Doctor is Matt Smith's Doctor forgets how to be human a lot of the time, whereas David Tennant's Doctor is very much, I did my GCSEs in geography and I did this and I did my A-levels and my wife is back home, and he makes all these solid earth references.
It's arguably down to character. I wouldn't say it's necessarily down to, like, the Doctor forgetting things.
No.
The Doctor doesn't forget things, but I do know what you mean.
But you know what I mean? Like, Matt Smith's Doctor was played off for laughs, and I don't know if that's because a lot of the time it was appealing to the American audience, but it was very much a Matt Smith can't sit still for 5 minutes in an episode because he doesn't know how to be bored. Whereas David's just kind of like, yeah, I'm an average human guy. I did my GCSEs, did my A-levels, I got a wife, I did this, I did that. And it's very much just shows the difference in the approaches that Russell T Davies has to, like, Tennant solving a problem that, like, Moffat and Chibnall and everyone does successively to the other doctors solving problems. Because, like I said, Jodie would have just completely probably gone in there, scanned what was going on and gone, I know what you're doing, you're trying to blow up the earth with this MRI machine, and here's a bunch of exposition because we've got kids watching this show, don't you know, and I need to tell them exactly what's going on. Which is basically my 2 cents, sorry. In case you can't tell, I really don't like Chibnall.
Okay, let's stay on Smith and Jones for a sec. Let's jump over to Twitter because we have a bunch of questions.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a question right at the top that I've got here that's from John Carlisle, which I might think I'll try and remember to answer this more towards the end of the series because he asks whether we think she'd be received better if she were less romantically focused in the series. And I think that's more of a question for later because obviously we're only at the start of the series. We know that there are people who are listening to this podcast who haven't watched Who all the way through, so I think we'd probably hang fire on that one.
But to
we've
be
already
fair,
obviously talked about
I was
her
going to
romantic
say, I think we've
nature,
talked about that kind of nature of her side of things a bit in this episode.
At least in this episode, but I think that's probably one we'll come back to
if we remember
towards the end of the series. If we remember,
Apologies
John.
if we
when
don't.
When it gets to the Sound of Drums and Last of the Time Lords,
retweet
let us know
the
again
question
on Twitter. Send us the question again, and I'm sure we'll get around to it. So, Misha asks, do you think the Doctor is really as oblivious to Martha's feelings as he lets on? Could it be that while he does miss Rose herself, he has also gotten used to being adored and he purposefully sets up his relationship with Martha this way as well? The Doctor is not an idiot, and Nine showed it in his first scene with Jackie that he knows what flirting and innuendo look like. Plus, previous incarnations of the Doctor have been manipulative as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've never looked at it and thought that he sets it up so that Martha falls in love with him exactly, but I do see the point of him setting it up so he's not alone.
He's very much the person who says, I'm not okay, no one talk to me, but very loudly says that because they actually do want to be spoken to.
Yeah, but I don't think he's oblivious to her feelings in the slightest. I think he full well
But I also
knows.
don't think I think he's wanting that companionship.
Mm-hmm.
I think he does this better with Donna when he says, I just want a mate, and she says, you're not mating with me, Sunshine. It's like he genuinely just wants a friend, because I don't think he wants another person to romantically lose. And arguably, apart from River, which is a bit different because he knows how that ends, we don't have that with another companion since Rose.
No. Thank God.
Unless 13 and Thasmin becomes a thing.
Thasmin?
I think it's what the people are shipping it as.
Really? Oh no. That's not okay.
Yeah. Interesting. But
well, that would require Yaz to have a soul.
Wow.
Anyway.
Moving on.
But yeah, I don't think
Crikey.
he's oblivious. But I also am not sure whether he set it up for her to be romantically interested. I think it's just...
I think he just wants the attention.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. And obviously after the kind of stuff he's gone through,
Who can
I don't blame
him?
him. Yeah. But anyway. Jay asks, could you see Martha returning in the future? And arguably, she's one of the only companions who could.
Yeah.
Out of what we've had in New Who, because of how things end for certain characters. Arguably, she's the only quote-unquote normal one left. Apart from Ryan and Graham, really. Who I'm sure we'll see again by the end of the Chibnall era.
I was going to say, I highly doubt that there's not going to be an episode in Flux where they crop up randomly in one scene and then go
I wouldn't
again.
say in Flux. I think it'll be in the specials towards the end.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because I'm pretty certain there's a picture of Bradley Walsh and John Bishop on set together.
Why am I not surprised?
So, yeah. So could Martha return in the future? Arguably, yes.
I don't see why not. She's the only one
Russell
who had the
coming
crossover
back.
between that and Torchwood, isn't she?
She was really good in Torchwood.
Yeah, she was, actually.
I really liked her stuff in Series 2 of Torchwood. So I would say arguably yes. If we got Russell coming back, it's obviously one of his characters.
I don't see
why
why not.
he wouldn't. But then semi-spoilers, but also not really that relevant because you jump to this point after a lot of stuff happens off screen. Mickey, they're a couple, they're a thing. It kind of gets sprung up on you, so it's not really a spoiler if you didn't know that. It's just like it's a thing towards the end of
it's a very loose detail that isn't really important.
But like obviously Noel Clarke coming back,
not going to happen.
Also probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
So if Martha did come back, it would be in some
she'd probably have divorced
just
him.
solo way. I would say they'd probably just mention him.
Yeah.
And that'd be about it. But she could come back. I don't see why she wouldn't. She's actually doing Big Finish. I just remembered.
Oh yeah.
Freema Agyeman she's doing the Year of Martha Jones, which you'll see by the end of the series because there's a lot of stuff happens in that time that we didn't see.
Yeah.
So that's what she's doing with Big Finish, which is super cool. So arguably, yes, Martha could come back. I wouldn't mind it because all the time she has come back in Torchwood and Doctor Who, she's been great.
She's been a solid character, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess why not? So, Nathan asks, do the Jadoon look for specifically her species regarding Straw Bitch, or just alien in general? Because it's always bugged me how she drinks the Doctor's blood and they then know who she is because they say she is a plasmavore. But surely she'd register as a Time Lord like she registers as a human when assimilating everyone else's blood.
Yeah, I thought that as well because when they scan the Doctor, he's obviously trying very hard to run away. But who knows? I mean, I believe... Yeah, because they sort of start off by saying looking for non-human life. But then when they scan her at the very end and they're like, Plasmavore, you are arrested for the crimes against sucking the blood of this princess or whatever
that princess, yeah.
Then they clearly are looking for her specifically. But I think the...
You say there's a little plot hole because she should register as Time Lord if she's drank his blood in the way she registered as human.
I think maybe it's one of those things where they probably... Because, I don't know. That is the only bit that scarpers it, really. Because if you ignore that plot point, they probably had some sort of detail in their scanners that could prove that she wasn't a Time Lord because of the way, like... it was her insides were manipulating stuff or whatever.
I was going to say, that was what I was going to say, is like, yeah, as a criticism, as a potential plot hole, that is very valid.
Yeah.
Why would she register as Vesperform, as Plasmavore, when she's just drank Time Lord blood, Gallifreyan blood? So the way that I would have like rectified that is obviously, potentially their kit wouldn't have Time Lord registered in it in the same way that Jabe in End of the World
has never.
Her scannery thing is like, I think Time Lord and stuff like that, or like, you don't exist and blah blah blah. Maybe that's why. Maybe it doesn't register as that, or maybe there could have been a bit expositionary, but it could have worked in the same way that when they scan Martha after the Doctor kisses her, they're like, wait, the machine is doing something else. It's not fully right. Maybe they could have written a line or two in for the Jadoon to say to have it scan and go like, don't know, a bit weird, and it goes like traces of human, traces of this. Two different readings means
the only
Plasmavore.
The only maybe conclusion that I can come up with is that if they are looking for non-human life, then they know that they're clearly looking for the criminal who sucked the blood of So okay, maybe they would have scanned the Doctor and seen that he was non-human, but they might have scanned him and figured out he was a Time Lord, have been like, okay, he's not the person we're looking for. That's never explored. But when they scan her and they get that she's non-alien, their scanners then... that he then says, like, do full scan to his team or whatever. Maybe it's because her physiology doesn't match up with Time Lord that they assume she's a Plasmavore because she's drank Time Lord blood, but she doesn't have two hearts. Maybe her physiology is completely different to that of a Time Lord, so therefore they go, you're probably not a Time Lord, you are probably a Plasmavore. But maybe her physiology just matches to that of a human, so therefore it maybe masqueraded that kind of physiology side of things.
Maybe,
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, as you say, maybe just her biology that can rewrite itself and stuff, internal shape changer, couldn't match a Time Lord because potentially their biology might be millions of years in the future where Time Lords have been long dead forever.
Yeah.
So it just wouldn't know what
it
to
is
do
a bit of a plot hole, like I will
It's a plot hole.
agree.
It's not a major one to completely ruin everything, but it is a valid point and it could have been smoothed over a little bit more, but it's not something that I think people would go, oh well, that just doesn't work. So, anyway. Chris asks, what changed from the Jadoon not having jurisdiction on Earth in this episode to them somehow having jurisdiction in Series 12?
Yeah. Who knows?
My thoughts on that immediately. If this is the Jadoon dealing with the fugitive doctor in the division, this is obviously from way in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the events of something like the fugitive doctor arc, which we're still yet to get rectified and work out what happens, maybe this is what potentially means the Jadoon don't get jurisdiction anymore. Maybe they don't need to lean into that to really connect this and Smith and Jones, but maybe because this is so far in the past for these Jadoon and the division compared to maybe the Jadoon we see in Smith and Jones, maybe back then they did have jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Or it was they were being paid so much more money by the division to go and find this fugitive that they were like, you know what, we've got all this money, screw it, let's ignore the jurisdiction rules and just go to Earth.
Alternatively, maybe they have jurisdiction for where they get paid to have jurisdiction. You never know. Like, maybe in this episode they were paid to have... Like, they weren't paid enough to have jurisdiction over Earth. Maybe that's just the way the Jadoon's fees work. I don't know. Like, it is a bit of a, again, it's like I said to you downstairs, wasn't it? It's one of those things where the comparison between the things that Russell T Davies sets up and the things that later writers seem to retcon through silly jokes or whatever, like I said to you, didn't I? That in this episode, David goes, right, we'll do this, and turn the handbrake off. And yet in one of Matt Smith's episodes, River specifically says to him, it's not meant to make that noise, you leave the handbrake on. And it's kind of like... Really, Moffat, did you really have to go with that joke? Because we clearly see David in this episode taking the handbrake off. So,
yeah, there are lots of lines like that in the Moffat era that just didn't age well. I literally said to you there was an article, I think it might have been on Screen Rant or something, about why the Davies era has aged better than Moffat's, because I think Moffat didn't try and lean into the things that could be quoted and turned into bloody Tumblr posts.
You mean Russell didn't
as
lean
much
into
as
that, not Moffat.
Sorry, Russell didn't lean into that. Moffat did lean into that.
Yeah.
Sort of, let's make quotes and jokes and stuff that just don't really make sense. But
so I think it was probably just one of those things that maybe, I don't know, maybe whoever wrote the episode where the Jadoon did have jurisdiction on Earth just forgot about this episode or this line that meant that they didn't have jurisdiction, and it probably was just one of those accidental things that gets missed.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, John asks whether Martha's character is worsened by constantly comparing her to Rose and it diminishes her strong character. And I think we've already touched upon this, that yes, it does to some extent, because as we've said, it sort of shrouds Martha's character in that's how people remember her.
And
not
she's a very strong character,
really
as you say. So she doesn't deserve to be compared to Rose all the time.
And that kind of goes into Lucas's question as well about our opinions on Martha as compared to how we started watching it and how we finished watching it. It's probably not as an extreme of a comparison as Donna in Runaway Bride versus Partners in Crime. But, you know, when you see, as we've said, if you don't know this already, which most of you probably do, when you see Martha later on, she is a much more...
independent.
I wouldn't say stable, but yeah, independent is probably the better word, because she doesn't go all googly eyes over the doctor.
I think
all the time,
again,
like she does
it's probably because she gets thrown into the foray a little bit later on in the series, where she doesn't have a choice but to fight for herself, and so she has to become that strong, independent woman, you know.
But so Scorp leans into this with their questions as well about, you know, the genetic transfer. Could they have done something that wasn't just kissing?
Maybe he could have slapped her around the face.
In universe, it was a bad move by the writers to set up Martha as this comparison to Rose. And it's like, yeah, I get that sucks for her character. And obviously, when you're conceiving a character like that, you don't know what the reaction's initially going to be. Obviously, we knew that the Doctor would still be getting over Rose. Like, imagine if, you know, when Russell wrote The Runaway Bride, for example, assuming it was him that wrote it.
Yeah, I think so.
He probably looked at that and thought, am I leaning into Rose's memory too much? Should I move on from this? How are the audience going to react to that? Obviously, the audience reacted positively to the fact that the Doctor was still getting over this.
I was going to say, you need time to grieve.
You wouldn't get over it immediately.
No.
And obviously, that would be the same internal debate that Russell would have had writing
Martha.
Smith and Jones. Do I still lean into that compared to Rose? Because at the end of the day, it's like I'm almost acknowledging the fact that people will compare Freema Agyeman's performance as Martha to Billie Piper's performance as Rose, and the two characters against each other.
I think that's probably why he went down the route of making her a very different character to be introduced. Hence why we say he's good at writing female characters, because Martha is nothing like Rose. It's the pure reason she gets compared is because she is the second companion, and that's just unfortunately how it was always going to be. So I think maybe he understood that people were always going to compare her to Rose, and he just thought, well, okay, they're going to compare her, so why don't I make a point of making that comparison myself, making the audience aware of the fact that, like, we know that she's falling in love with the Doctor, but it's not going to happen a second time round, and therefore that leads the audience to be like growing away from that comparison, because then it kind of ends with Martha going, I'm not going to take this anymore, I don't have to sit here and be in love with you when you're not in love with me. And the audience kind of looks at that and goes, do you know what, actually that takes a lot to walk away from something like that.
As I said earlier, we all know people who get head over heels for people and just won't drop it, irrelevant of whatever goes on, whatever people tell you, people just don't drop that. So the fact that Martha can genuinely put that back, and she quotes her friend that says, get out. Yeah. You know, it's like that.
And that is a testament to her strong character. So I do think that Russell knew exactly what he was doing when he added the kiss in, because he probably thought, well, people are going to compare her anyway. I might as well make this storyline something that proves that I'm not just going to write a second love story for the both characters. I'm going to slowly eke away from that, but also...
And that's probably why that sort of relationship with the Doctor, from a companion's perspective, even with Moffat companions and Chibnall companions potentially, like that hasn't lent into that, because arguably it is, as I've said, when people talk about Martha, that's the thing they criticise. Yeah. That's the facet of her character people didn't like, which is probably why they've not lent into it again. I think if, for example, as I said, if something did happen between 13 and Yaz, by all means, I'm all right for it. Especially since it's going to piss off all the people that think it's too woke.
I think it's been long enough that we've not had a Doctor and companion relationship.
It's been a long time since Rose, because I mean Rose was 2006. It's 15 years ago, so it's like that ship has sailed. It can definitely be explored again. Maybe it could bring up old memories of Rose, which might not help things, might make things more interesting, might just be a thing mentioned in passing to acknowledge that it did happen in the past, but that could happen in the future. But Martha's definitely a character. If you didn't like her in the past, go back and watch this again, and it's not the best thing to say, put that sort of that arc of her being googly over the Doctor, just put it away for a bit. But if you do put it away for a bit, you see
Martha's character,
how much more of that character actually is there, and that aura of crap kind of, you can wash it away and look at the character as they are. And I'm hoping that'll be the same for me and Clara, but I don't know.
Wow.
But I don't think it will. But anyway, that's a story for another time when we get to Series 7. Woo, Series 7. But that is about where we're going to wrap up our talk about everything that isn't Smith and Jones.
Sorry.
But I hope that you have all enjoyed listening to us rambling on about this, that, and the other. And if you want to get involved in our next episode, which will be Shakespeare Code. I was about to say Tooth and Claw. That's Series 2, Episode 2. Shakespeare Code with the witches. The hot witch. Gonna appreciate the hot. She's hot. And she's Shakespeare, who's also hot.
He's hot.
Yeah, the hotometer is back out in full swing for Shakespeare Code next time.
All four of them on screen together, we're in trouble.
Oh boy. Gonna simp our way into oblivion next time.
Oh dear, we are in trouble.
God damn it. But that's going to be next time. If you've got any questions regarding the Shakespeare Code, or you did watch Only in America on CBBC and what other kids' TV you enjoyed watching, or whatever, please let us know on Twitter at Kasterpod. Kasterpod. Amy, where can they find you and all your stuff?
You can find me on Instagram at Ames_Elizabeth. And
you're still doing the you're still doing the voice. You can find me on Instagram.
You can find me on Instagram at Ames_Elizabeth. You can also find me on Twitter. However, I basically do not tweet anything. So if you're going to find me anywhere, probably follow me on Instagram. It's the better place to keep up with what I'm doing.
Hey, you can find me on Twitter at PickupChangeToe and on YouTube, youtube.com/PickupChangeToe, or just search for Rich Hudson. I should come up now because I've got more than 4 subscribers. So
you should.
Doctor Who Flux reviews every Monday morning at 2 in the morning.
2 a.m.
turn the video around that evening because I give that much of a crap about doing these reviews, and it's definitely paid off. So again, if you have refound the podcast or you've been listening to the podcast and you've been watching my reviews as well, thank you. I really appreciate it. And it's
nice.
It feels really good to be back on it. It really, really does. And it feels good to be back on the podcast. I am proud
of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My favourite Financy.
It does feel good to be back on the podcast, actually. Like, I have missed doing it. And it's one of the same things we say every week. We're sorry there's such a gap, but, you know.
I mean, to be honest, like, it feels like with work, I mean, I've said this a lot, but work's been hella busy at the minute, but it seems to be quietening down a bit as we head towards Christmas. January's going to be mad, I know that much, but, like, yeah, hopefully we might get back into some kind of rhythm. We're still going to be keeping to it. We're never going to bin off the podcast entirely. If we did, we'd tell you. Don't you worry.
Yeah,
but we're not going
don't worry.
to. But stick around, as I said, at Kasterpod, and I'm on YouTube, and I'm on Twitter, and Amy's on Instagram and whatever. Yeah. But thank you all very, very much for listening. We'll see you next time for the Shakespeare Code. Go and get your hotometers out because it's going to get really spicy on screen next time. Take care of yourselves, guys. Thanks for listening again. And we'll see you next time.
Goodbye. Bye.